Melvin Williams. You've seen me on The Wire playing the Deacon. You've seen me on American Gangster. This is my autobiography. The first half of it is about me and the fallacy of things and the fabrication of law that took place in my life. The second half is law that you young people need in order to be free and to stay free and to learn that the law is not to break. Maybe bend, but you got to know it to show it.
Yeah, from Public Enemy.
So, I guess when it's all said and done, you know, after your life has been lived, and you know, what do you want to pass on? It's like, how do you want people to remember Melvin Williams?
The guy that told me the truth. He didn't lie to me. And he made some of the truth so easy I couldn't help but sing. I couldn't miss him.
Do you have any regrets, I guess?
No, that would be futile. I mean, that's an exercise in futility. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
Well, how do you think about how they portrayed you on The Wire? Or portrayed The Wire based on your story?
The Wire was much less than it was portrayed. It was an ugly time, and it was a considerable amount of things that, had they had an opportunity, they could have shown The Wire. I mean,
10 times as worse?
Oh yeah, much worse.
What was it about that time period that made it worse than it is now, maybe? The destruction of human life was so organized and orchestrated. Now you will hear from day to day or hour to hour how somebody that looks like us has been victimized or killed off for whatever reason, and it's almost infantile or non-relative. But back, as it said in the day, it had a particular purpose. Like, give you an example. When a kid came in the neighborhood and fired his pistol, and we didn't know who he was likely to hit, he was just a loose cannon, somebody, one of the men, would go knock on his door and tell his mother, Miss Sarah, Mr. John, send your kid to Florida tonight. And when they didn't, the next morning they would find that he had been assassinated. And so they would send the message out immediately trying to find out who killed my baby. And somebody would tell her or send a message back, your baby wasn't a baby, your baby was a roach. And what we want you to do so that you can raise these other 2 or 3 around there with some kind of effort, stop trying to find out with these surreptitious means that you have who killed your little roach son, because the guy that is responsible for your son's death said to me to tell you he'll come back tonight at 9 o'clock if you really want to see him. It's more like a gentleman's type of thing.
Yeah, he will revisit your house if you really trying to see him, and I'm here to tell you that he ain't the guy that you want to see. Let that go. He knows you, you don't know him. Don't make an enemy out of a guy that is invisible to you, and you see what he's capable of doing and what he likes to do. Shut his job off. Raise these other 2 with one word that wasn't in the other guy's understanding. Respect.
And that's what a lot of the younger people don't know have nowadays.
One word, respect. And I would add that to the vocabulary of all of the young people that get an opportunity to hear me speak. When you and your brother man have disenchantment and confrontation, do me one favor. Hear him out. I don't care what happens after, at least hear his side.
think that'll keep a lot of us out of incarceration. Well, what do you think about BlackandNobel, about the building that you're sitting in right now?
I think your place is fantastic. I think it affords you the one thing that I try to tell all young blacks wherever I encounter them. Please work for yourself. I don't know what it takes and how long it will take, but if you show up as regular as the Korean does at 7 in the morning and close when the sun go down, and you work for you, sooner or later, if you build it, they will come.
We're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We actually stay open later on Fridays.
That's fantastic. You are going to be around a long time. And it's evident that what you're teaching and promoting is only going to go up, up, and away. And I can only say to you that whenever, and I'm going to leave you my cell phone number, whenever you have need for me, if you can't come to Baltimore, I'll come to BlackandNobel. And all I want to be done is what Bill Withers said. Use me up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Keep on using me.
We have a lot of Panthers come through. We have a lot of people that are still heavily involved in the struggle, where we've been pressured in the last few weeks because, you know, we were selling music and everything like that, so we've been pressured and we had to make a choice whether serving the people behind the walls and in the struggle and in the fight is more important than the music, and we decided that is definitely the case.
In that I have been confined all around the planet, I'm certain that all of those brothers and their families that I've been confined with, that a lot of them I have done their petitions and reversed their sentences, I'm certain they're going to want this book. I am hopeful that they will, from this area, get it through here, and in Baltimore they'll get it from another area. But
what other places were you incarcerated, if you don't mind me asking?
Incarcerated at Lewisburg. I've been incarcerated at the Gladiator School of the Federal System, Terre Haute, Indiana. I've been incarcerated in Atlanta when it was really Atlanta. I did 5 years, 2 months, 11 days, 8 hours, and 15 minutes in Atlanta. When it was considered to be the killing field. But the killing field now is Terre Haute, Indiana. I've been in all different penitentiaries all around the federal system because I file. Meaning, once I go into the penitentiary, I find a way in my case to free myself and anybody else that's around the law library that's got a legal issue that I can assist them with. I don't have to tell you, when this government sees that you are too good at what you do, they give you what's considered to be the gas treatment. They put you on the bus and they send you someplace else. The unfortunate part about that for them is that when they put you on the bus, your issue ceases to exist until you get to your next designation, and you get your legal material in your hand, and then you are afforded to continue in a timely manner to continue to file. So the beat goes on, and so it's a system. But you have to be committed in your heart to knowing that the basketball court is nowhere that you're going to free yourself. You've got to free yourself in federal court through the law library. You got to exercise and get all your things in and get your commissary and whatever else, but you have to commit yourself to the law library.
What was because I know that you have a lot of laws and a lot of rights in here. What do you think is the most important one that kind of made you really sit up straight and say, look, man, I got to study the rest of these?
My first interest came from the first case, Dred Scott versus Sanford, in which a black man that was a slave captured as a slave, was taken across the state line and released by his slave master owner, and then another slave owner captured him and brought him back to that jurisdiction and enslaved him again. He filed to the Supreme Court in 1856, and the Chief Judge, Roger B. Taney, sent him this message back. The Supreme Court is for citizens. You, Mr. Scott, are not a citizen. You are a Negro slave with 3/5 rights of a human being and none that white folks are bound to respect.
You will not take that off.
Dred Scott has never been taken off the books nor repealed. Now, the 14th Amendment affords us to be naturalized or to be considered citizens in spite of Dred Scott. But Dred Scott was written by a group of white men that owned property, and the property was us.
So isn't that considered, the 14th Amendment kind of puts us in the chattel property classification?
The 14th Amendment allows us access to the United States. But to give you an idea about deception, something that I will not do to you young black people, a few months back, maybe only one, on the 4th of July, we saw Beyonce, and the backdrop was the Statue of Liberty. And her hair was blowing. Gorgeous child. Right? The deception that was played on us is that at the 17th century, I think it was 76, we were slaves. And to show her with the backdrop of the Statue of Liberty is deceptive, because nobody of our heritage ever came past the Statue of Liberty. We came through the bottom of boats in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Texas. Nobody that looked like us ever saw Ellis Island. So to show Ellis Island with Beyonce singing like the 4th,
like it meant something to us.
Yeah.
The Liberty, Statue of Liberty.
And this is the signature statement on the 4th of July. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That wasn't for us. We were what they were fighting over. We were slaves. And for somebody to put that on national television to deceive you so that our kids believe the 4th of July actually affected us, just like Santa Claus. Yeah, like Santa Claus is real. That's what it is. A national slap in the face.
Thanks, good.
It's got to stop. And the sad part about it is that we have people that know enough to make it stop. Unfortunately, they got positions that they're getting $8.50 from the Weinberg Foundation, or we're getting a grant from some place where they give some black man $8.50 and teach
a gag treatment.
Give him a grant for $8.50 and to be in our neighborhood. Why? Because there's so little work and work ethic that whatever is put in our neighborhood, we're going to find a way to sell it to make money. I maintain that the only way that we are ever going to be narcotic free is that it's legitimized. How and when that's going to happen, I don't know, but I know in Britain today and Amsterdam, anybody that wants to get high from heroin, they will give him his shot for $1, or they will allow him to take his shot without any finance at all. They will run some type of grammage test to see how many grams he's actually used. They will try to wean him down to nothing. But imagine trying to make a profit selling narcotics, and you got to get below $1 to get a profit. It can't happen. And likewise, in the event that it was legitimized, the need for trying to sell it would diminish. And likewise, since you can't sell narcotics and make a profit, there's no reason for you to keep that Uzi in your house. So everything changes. He stops the flow, and he stops the murder as well. It's just so many ups and no downs. But you know, having been the young guy that all he wants is to be seen on the same basketball court he's been playing on forever, and he wants everybody to see him with his new 550 Benz and his whatever, his Rolexes and the watches that they use. I'm here to tell him that until he can find a way to incorporate or do something that allows him to work for himself, he's got a short career with that. Because what he does is what no agent ever wants to do: blow his own cover.
And these rappers nowadays,
they're rappers.
Indict themselves.
Yeah, but that now, as long as he is just a rapper. Now, let me give you a specific identity on that. And I know one, and you heard a name. Tupac was a wonderful rapper, actor, songwriter. They put him in to play Melvin one day. They put him in to play gangster. He couldn't play that. Because not only is gangster real, but the people around that are gangster got to feel that you gangster. It ain't something that you can play act about. So, I mean, it's got so many downsides. I would suggest to any young guy, before you put yourself out there, cover yourself and learn something about the law that governs you. And I don't know what part of the world you're in, but if you need to, flag me, run me down. You don't ever catch me in an outfit or in an area where I won't sit down and talk law with anybody, especially you young guys that need it. So if I can be of further assistance, that's
How were you
what I
before
want to
you
do.
knew the law? What's the difference?
They used to call me Book of Knowledge. Everybody would place bets on, you know, I've hit the number 2 Tuesdays in a row for $100 in my home. That's how I met my godfather, my Jewish boss godfather. So when you say in my home, hey, you know, Melvin just beat so-and-so out of 250,000 playing so-and-so, that was not surprising to anybody. That's something that they already expected. Now, if you told me that he had gotten some kind of doctor or law degree, that would be surprising to me. But for him to do something in and around the neighborhood that was fantastic, that's his norm. But now that I know law and I could pass the bar in any part of the world, because I didn't get an opportunity to learn it in Harvard or Georgetown or Stanford. I had to learn law getting the dirt off of me. So, you know, periodically I'll be on seminars with different people, and, you know, guys will ask different professors certain things, and they will shun the guy, and I'll try to come to his aid. And I've had some young people say, hey man, I don't want to hear from a guy that ain't never been down on Market Street in the news, because that's how you are when you're out in the street new. I don't want to hear from somebody that spent all of his life going from classroom to classroom reading what Fraud said or what the Supreme Court said. I want to hear from that black guy that told me that he spent 26 and a half years in the penitentiary and they tried to kill him every day. That's who I want to hear from. And so here I am. I'm open to you. Whenever you want me, I'm available.
That's something. You always like to touch with that Zoom.
You can't keep what you got in this country unless you have a command of law. I don't care how much money you gather together from any controlled substance or any acts, unless you are able to. We spend so much time with police officers and different other people claiming to be law enforcement who don't know the law, and they got one thing: they got a weapon. It's the biggest gang in town. So that's what we need to spend more of our time knowing how to control and not be abused by knowing the law. When you know the law, you don't break it. Maybe bend it, but you don't break it. Respect.
Respect.
Well, the book is predicated around me spending 26 and a half years in the penitentiary.
Initially, I was framed and sent to the penitentiary. I was supposed to have had a genius IQ. You saw me play the Deacon on the Wire, if you saw The Wire. Then you saw me play American Gangster. I guess that's really me. And the book took me 8 years, and I finally finished it with law in the back of it. My intent is so that you guys never have to spend 26 and a half years in the penitentiary like I did. I maintain that you need to study law so that you know how to protect yourself. And a lot of guys will say, well, I'm not doing anything. I don't need law. That's the most important reason why you need to study law. The mere fact that you're not doing anything has nothing to do with having a confrontation with law enforcement and being black. Law is what governs and conditions and incarcerates us, and we need to know as much of it as possible. And that's what I consider to be my job. My job and assignment is to make sure that you young folks learn and know as much law as I do. And with that, that's my job. If I can accomplish that a couple of times a day, but more than anything else, whether you learn as much as I know or not, is not nearly as important as me making you aware of your need for it, and you initiate that. I'm going to start studying. I'm going to play video games too. I'm going to study how many points LeBron made, but you need to study.
You ain't doing books today, huh?
Yeah, I'm about to come out.
It was a whole thing they got now about the curfew thing, like downtown City Hall, about like all the flash mob stuff going on. And I just happened to be on my way home from the curfew thing. And it was about like 9, 10, and they stopped me. It was like hour about like 15. And they said I had to come and done like the whole curfew notification thing. I did a whole curfew notification. We took me to the 6th district. I didn't leave out of the 6th. I got there at 9:30. I didn't leave out of there until like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, and what was the basis for their housing you like that? What was their reason?
It was just the whole thing of the curfew thing was just like stop.
So you were out after curfew?
Yeah, I was on my way home around like 9, 10.
But the curfew begins what, at 9?
Yeah.
And at 9 you're not supposed to be in the street?
You're not supposed to be downtown.
It's no way to defeat that.
Yeah.
That's a state ordinance. That's different from a federal law that violates the Constitution. Your state, this being a common law or commonwealth, it allows them to make laws that suit and satisfy them basically whenever they want to. But if they printed it up, meaning promulgated it, plastered it where you already knew you shouldn't have done that, then they pretty much got you. It's nothing you can really do to deviate from that, other than be in a car or be almost home, and I can't imagine how you can get around.
Follow the.
And that's what I've got in the book. The law is the law is the law. If you want to do something about Commonwealth, you have to be instrumental in not allowing the law to take effect. You and whoever you have that see your way against what the law is going to change to be, you have to do something to initiate a change then. Once they've made it law and say that you are curfewed if you're in the street after 9 o'clock, you got to obey that. Anything else is an exercise in futility. But I don't know very much about Philadelphia statute. I know about the Constitution. And that's what I say to you young guys. I hopefully will be able to convince enough of you young guys that you need to study federal law. Having spent 26 and a half years in the federal penitentiary, I want to make sure that nobody else goes to the penitentiary for being ignorant of law. It's too easy to read, and you guys can understand. Where most folks are of the opinion you want to hide it from black folks, you put it in a book. I maintain that that's not the truth. You young folks can listen to a DVD, can reiterate it verbatim immediately thereafter, and all you got to do is read. Yeah, you got to study. My disadvantage was that when all of these brilliances and all of this IQ was within me, I knew things that I guess a young guy my age shouldn't have known. I knew chemistry and analytic geometry, calculus, and all the different things that say higher intelligence. But I didn't know law. I didn't know law. And so that's what I'd like to be the thing that I pass to you and anybody that I come in contact with, is that if they could make a mockery of a guy with the kind of genius IQ that they said that I had and sentence him and give him an incarceration and not give him the right to his Sixth Amendment cross-examining of his accuser. That's how all of mine started. I was never given my Sixth Amendment right to confrontation of a police that put some narcotics in my pocket. At the time he put the narcotics in my pocket, he couldn't come to court. He couldn't come to court because he had perjured himself 6 months prior, and the judge barred him from the... You end up going to the penitentiary for possession of narcotics, and the guy that said you possess it can't come into the courthouse. My lawyer never objected. My lawyer, you gotta have an objection on the record so that the court can see that you disapprove of what's going on. My lawyer never objected. Now, my lawyer later became the district attorney for the state, as well as a judge. His name was Milton Allen. And for whatever reason, I'm now aware that the Sixth Amendment Constitution to the United States of America is something that they teach you in first-year law school. So it says that my attorney crossed me.
So do you think that they teach you that so you can figure out ways to get around it the whole time you're in school?
We, like most young people, which is why I think it's so easy for me to talk to them, I've been them. And we know that the house is going to catch on fire. We just think it's going to be the one next door. So I likewise didn't have a clue that it was going to be me. I'm a gambler at the time. I'm a world-class gambler. I'm a millionaire. And the night before this occurrence, I had just won $84,000 cash. So I'm saying to myself, the next day is going to be fantastic. The next day, they put narcotics in my pocket. When I go to trial, I got a cigar in my pocket. You know, you remember Red Auerbach for the Boston Celtics? He used to always light a cigar. You already know it's the Boston Celtics. So I got a cigar in my pocket at trial. I'm thinking this is a lot. The guy can't even come in the courthouse. Plus, he kills himself, but that's 1 month after they convict me. They find me guilty. But I'm dumb enough to take a judge trial. I don't take a jury. I don't take 12. But my godfather, who's the Jewish boss of bosses at the time, gives me guidance on, maybe he has more knowledge of the law, plus he owes me a favor. So take a judge trial. When he finds me guilty and on every count, and I'm going back to the bullpen, as you'll read in the book, the first words in the book. Read the first words.
I've never been angrier than that moment, but I was shocked and mystified concerning my then surroundings. I was branded as a drug dealer when until that time I'd only been a gambler, hustling to make my way. I became a professional gambler out of necessity. I was born with the unusual high IQ, a poor black kid in the inner city of Baltimore. I found that gambling provided me an escape from poverty. I had been poor until I learned to pick up a set of dice, a pool cue, and a deck of cards.
So that's my forte. I had learned everything that I thought I needed to know about gambling. I was blessed to have several older guys that taught me just about everything about manipulating dice, dealing cards from the top, bottom, middle, wherever. And I learned how to play pool from 2 world-class champions. One's named Strawberry, another named Bugs out of Chicago. Strawberry's from Washington. But to wake up in the penitentiary and have no control when all I've done for the rest of my life is run something. And I woke at that moment with an emotion that I pray to be able to convince all of the kids that I meet, never be angry again in your life. I know that's impossible, but never make a decision while you're angry.
Right.
That's the first thing that I want. That's the
good theory.
That's the one thing that I want to. Every decision that I ever made in anger promoted not only this first incarceration that they gave me 12 years, but when I was sent to the penitentiary, unbeknowing, illiterate to law, knowing everything about everything else, I said to myself, now that I'm a drug dealer, I want to be the world's best drug dealer. And so I set my sights on being just that. To date, I'm certain I've sold $500 million worth of narcotics. I've never had a beer, a cigarette, an aspirin, a joint. I've never tasted coffee. I've never had a bottle of wine. Taekwondo, Goju-Ryu, Shotokan, Kung Fu. I've had some samurai training from a Shaolin. But none of those things can help you do anything in anger. One day after serving 26 and a half years in penitentiaries all around the planet where I was sent by the government with one thing in mind, let's get him killed. And it became clear to me that young people are listening when I speak, and I says I owe them something better than what I've been giving them. And so I says the one thing that I got to teach these kids, law. I got to teach them law. And so I set out with this book to make them aware of all of the things that I've learned studying law, digging myself out of holes that they put all the dirt on me, giving me all different kinds of sentences and sending me to federal penitentiaries all around the planet with that in mind to get this guy killed. And I want to say to these kids, kid, there's only one thing on the planet worse than being an American gangster. When you see me on American Gangster and the Deacon on the Wire, and you find that the inspiration for the Wire came from my case, that the guy that they got playing Avon Barksdale is me in actuality, and I hear kids say, hey Melvin, you're a living legend and you're OG, and you don't want to be me, man.
They use that word flawless.
If I can convince you of one thing, and I say that in crowds that I've been able to speak to with some as many as 1,000 young kids, if there's one person on the planet you don't want to be, it's me. There's nothing cute about moving about the cities in America with a target front and back, and some person that's got a government badge with your picture. If for whatever reason you catch him out of order, we don't want him arrested. We want him dead.
Explain your lifestyle before you got all caught up in the system.
Oh, I was a gambler. I mean, spoiled. Everybody wants to give me some money to go to gamble for them because I don't lose.
Yes.
Tyson, I want to be on record for being one of the few guys that you young black people have met that every time you spoke to me, you have on record that the guy did one thing constantly. He told me the truth. I didn't always like it. He never lied to me. That is what I consider to be the greatest offense that I could do to you when I have already seen things. I've been your age, you ain't been mine. I've seen things that you're hopefully not going to see, but if you do, I'm going to try to have you prepared for them. Because we live in a society where, as you probably know, and I hope you do, but if you don't, you'll know in a minute, the preamble to this Constitution that governs this country goes like this. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain to establish this Constitution to the United States of America. The last part of what's said needs to be considered carefully. Secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That was written by a group of white men that owned property at a time when we were still slaves. So he's making it crystal clear, all I want to be free is somebody that looks like me.
That's it.
Nobody else. The 14th Amendment that I got in here for the first time, that for all of us that hear about amendments, the 14th makes it crystal clear that anybody born on United States shores is henceforth a citizen. But Dred Scott versus Sanford, in which Justice Taney called us 3/5 of a human being with no rights bound for whites to respect, has never been taken off the books.
And you have all of these in here.
That's in that book.
Because what was your theory about if you're gonna do wrong?
If you're gonna break the law, you gotta know it first. And usually after you've taken enough time to know that this Constitution was written when you weren't even thought of by some people that didn't even equate you on the spectrum of governing you, slavery, I maintain, was not the worst thing that ever happened to us as a people. The laws that they put in place while we were slaves is the worst thing that ever happened to us, because that's what sends us to the penitentiary. Also, I'd like the Black Association, now that we become crystal clear on just how devious our oppressors are, to know that every time you see a black kid like this, he ain't necessarily guilty.
Oh no.
Yeah, don't
ship to the prison.
Yeah, don't.
We make sure that the brothers behind there go.
Don't ship him away like we do. I've been in penitentiaries all over the planet, and I've watched Jews come into the penitentiary when they're only supposed to have 2 adults and maybe 3 or 4 kids. They will bring 30 adults, the rabbi and everybody else, and they will pray with this kid, and he will know that I ain't gonna be here long. And shortly after, he's gone. I've seen the same black kid call home, and they tell him, hey, look, man, don't call here no more. You got us in this mess. We back to eating cheese again. We had gotten used to eating shrimp and caviar, and and by the way, they took your bands from out front. Don't call here no more. And so we are left to wallow in the mud all by ourselves. So ultimately, we come home angry. I think I deviated from that mold. I came home to a family and to a consciousness that I owe young people else on the planet are designed to be in our neighborhood. Why? Because there's so little work and work ethic that whatever is put in our neighborhood, we're going to find a way to sell it to make money. I maintain that the only way that we are ever going to be narcotic free is that it's legitimized. How and when that's going to happen, I don't know, but I know in Britain today and Amsterdam, anybody that wants to get high from heroin, they will give him his shot for $1, or they will allow him to take his shot without any finance at all. They will run some type of grammage test to see how many grams he's actually used. They will try to wean him down to nothing. But imagine trying to make a profit selling narcotics, and you got to get below $1 to get a profit. It can't happen. And likewise, in the event that it was legitimized, the need for trying to sell it would diminish. And likewise, since you can't sell narcotics and make a profit, there's no reason for you to keep that Uzi in your house. So everything changes. He stops the flow, and he stops the murder as well. It's just so many ups and no downs. But you know, having been the young guy that all he wants is to be seen on the same basketball court he's been playing on forever, and he wants everybody to see him with his new 550 Benz and his whatever, his Rolexes and the watches that they use. I'm here to tell him that until he can find a way to incorporate or do something that allows him to work for himself, he's got a short career with that. Because what he does is what no agent ever wants to do: blow his own cover.
And these rappers nowadays,
They're
just
rappers.
indict themselves.
Yeah, but that now, as long as he is just a rapper. Now, let me give you a specific identity on that. And I know one, and you heard a name. Tupac was a wonderful rapper, actor, songwriter. They put him in to play Melvin one day. They put him in to play gangster. He couldn't play that. Because not only is gangster real, but the people around that are gangster got to feel that you gangster. It ain't something that you can play act about. So I mean, it's got so many downsides. I would suggest to any young guy, before you put yourself out there, cover yourself and learn something about the law that governs you. And I don't know what part of the world you're in, but if you need to, flag me, run me down. You don't ever catch me in an outfit or in an area where I won't sit down and talk law with anybody, especially you young guys that need it. So if I can be of further assistance, that's
How were you before you knew the law?
I mean, I knew everything else. They used to call me Book of Knowledge. Everybody would place bets on, I've hit the number 2 Tuesdays in a row for $100 in my home. That's how I met my godfather, my Jewish boss godfather. So when you say in my home, hey, Melvin just beat so-and-so out of 250,000 playing so-and-so, that was not surprising to anybody. That's something that they already expected. Now, if you told me that he had gotten some kind of doctor or law degree, that would be surprising to me. But for him to do something in and around the neighborhood that was fantastic, that's his norm. But now that I know law and I could pass the bar in any part of the world, because I didn't get an opportunity to learn it in Harvard or Georgetown or Stanford, I had to learn law getting the dirt off of me. So, periodically I'll be on seminars with different people, and guys will ask different professors certain things, and they will shun the guy, and I'll try to come to his aid. And I've had some young people say, hey man, I don't want to hear from a guy that ain't never been down on Market Street in the news, because that's how you are when you're out in the street news. I don't want to hear from somebody that spent all of his life going from classroom to classroom reading what Freud said or what the Supreme Court said. I want to hear from that black guy that told me that he spent 26 and a half years in the penitentiary and they tried to kill him every day. That's who I want to hear from. And so here I am. I'm open to you. Whenever you want me, I'm available.
That's something. I always like to touch with that Zoom.
Since 03.
Since 03?
The last time that I was incarcerated was in '99, and I was given 23 years for possession of a weapon that I never touched. It took me 4.5 years to reverse that. While all of my attorneys had gone home and spending the Rolls Royce money and enjoying themselves, I finally got an opportunity to reverse it. And again, when you don't know much, you can't do much. I got this book that I want to make sure that all of you young guys know about law. I want to give you an opportunity to learn all of the things that has taken me all of this arrogance and all of this ignorance to learn. I want to pass that on for free. Educational. And that's the way I received it. They called me and we met down at the Moe's Lounge in Baltimore, and the author, David Simon of The Wire, and a cop that chased me for 10 years, Ed Burns, said, we want you to play a part, the deacon. You're not going to be killed off. We know you got an excellent retention. You got this photographic memory, and with that, it was on.
So would you consider acting again in any way? Or?
Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, cool.
Without a doubt. But this time, I'd like to have my hands mixed in it, you know. I've been on record for never working for nobody else. I find that nobody's gonna ever be able to pay Melvin like Melvin can pay Melvin. You can't keep what you got in this country unless you have a command of law. I don't care how much money you gather together from any controlled substance or any acts, unless you are able to, because you can only share so much information before you overwhelm it.
Right.
How you doing? All right.
Right.
And in being with you all most of the day, I'm thrilled and delighted to have left enough on record where when you get an opportunity to show it on record, hopefully we'll convince somebody that they don't want to be me. Yeah, I've been on The Wire and I've been on American Gangster, but it's no trade-off for 26 and a half years in the penitentiary. That ain't cute.
I just really want to thank you for coming out. I mean, you know, coming out here so you know where, you know, to the people and just spreading the word.
It's a pleasure. It's been my job.
Respect,
my pleasure. Respect.
Respect.
Respect. Everywhere. Blood.
So, in any case, I come from a small place, but, you know, the drug trade once in the 80s came around, you know, they were really, you know, took off.
And then
we was in the crack. And we, you know, there'd be guys that, I mean, all of a sudden would be showing up with these luxury cars, and I would, you know, even then, some of us would be like, "You're a target. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
What are you doing with a $70,000 car? Where the average income in our town probably like about 12, 15,000. No, 20 you was good, you know. And here you want to just show up, just flashing and talking junk, and I'm like, okay. You would see them for like about a year. They let them get comfortable, lull them into a sleep, and then be away for like 20.
Forever.
Yep.
Forever. And then the worst thing that they'll do now, these young people,
glorify the fact that they got locked up.
Yeah, and they get bodies, buddy bodies, not just bodies. Guys that they played basketball with last week. For whatever reason, they gave him a package on consignment. He owes them $2,000-3,000. They kill him in the parking lot or in the basketball court that they was playing in for all their life with 35 witnesses, and they think the witnesses are so intimidated that they ain't gonna show up in court.